While some economists are expressing dismay about what they see as a lack of fiscal restraint in the new federal budget, the finance minister is defending her financial blueprint. Chrystia Freeland pointed to remarks made by former Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Poloz. Fiscal projections in the budget show that the deficit has been revised upward since the fall and continues to grow. Now, this comes despite the budget update in November that projected a balanced budget in 2027 to 2028. This year's budget had three main priorities: health and dental care, affordability, and clean economy. Well, joining us now to give us his take on the federal budget in our weekly Caldwell Securities segment is Brendan Caldwell, director at Caldwell Securities Limited. Brendan, welcome back to Forum Daily.
Always great to see you, Nima.
Always great having you, Brendan. Now, one of the investment items mentioned in the budget is the new home savings account, which is aimed at helping Canadians secure their first home. So something a lot of Canadians are looking forward to. Can you unpack this for our viewers?
I think so. In a minute or less, it is an addition to being able to take money out of your RSP. There's a separate plan where first-time home buyers, someone who hasn't owned a home in the last 4 or 5 years, is able to add $8,000 a month to this plan, and so to a total of $40,000, which might help a bit between one and one's partner. You can put $80,000 together to get you at least started on a down payment for a home. And it also isn't a terrible thing because then parents are more likely to contribute to this, because I think one concern that both the young people have and people my age have is whether their kids will ever be able to buy a home. So I'm not promising my children who may be watching this that I'm going to contribute to their first-time home savings plan, but it is an option.
All right, Brendan. Well, we know the government is also moving to increase oversight of bank and pension plan exposure to crypto, all to tighten financial oversight over this. And they also established a new Canada Financial Crimes Agency. So how would this help investors?
I have absolutely no idea. I think there's the barn doors and horses clause as part of the overall Munchausen by proxy budget. So there's already been a big blow up in crypto. We've actually invested in a company that does secure crypto that actually is regulated, a company called Tetra Trust. But if you're putting your money, any money, in an offshore thing run by a guy in cargo shorts in the Bahamas, the results are predictable. So I think that it may be a bit late to sort of jump in and now say we're going to regulate crypto, because that is already left. And I think financial institutions and individuals, I think, are doing a much better job of regulating themselves. In the wake of the FTX and other explosions over the last few months.
And on the note of financial institutions, let's talk about the global turmoil in the banking sector. So I want to touch on Canada's deposit insurance, which is still at $100,000, and some say it may be outdated. How does this amount compare to what's seen in the United States?
Well, I'd have to check when they bumped it from, I think it was 60,000 to 100,000, but I'm pretty sure that was the 90s. Yes, the U.S. has a $250,000 U.S. Guarantee from the equivalent of the Canadian Deposit Insurance Corp. I think that number should be bumped up. I think part of the reason that it isn't is a competitive issue, because people will put large amounts of money with our big banks, assuming they're too big to fail, but only put $100,000 with the local trust company. So it's a way of attracting more money to the big banks and less money to the smaller trust companies and other smaller financial firms that are covered by the CDIC. So I think it should be bumped up. I think it should be something on the order of $250,000, because I think the last time they made a switch was over a quarter century ago.
All right, quite the discrepancy there, Brendan. We've got just about a minute left here, so I want to jump and talk about the deficit. A lot of criticism happening around the deficit, which continues to grow. How do you see this impacting Canadians in the long run?
Well, there's so many names for this budget. I think Medea might be one of them, the ancient Greek goddess that killed her own children. Sorry to wax so dark, but if we keep running up $40 billion deficits, it doesn't matter how many home buyers plans the government comes up with, or food subsidies, or this or that. We are literally bankrupting the next generation. Yes, during difficult economic times, it is a necessity perhaps to run something of a deficit, but there needs to be a balanced budget during better times. And regardless of what people say. We're in a full employment world right now. These are the good times. So I think running large deficits in good economies is a bad idea. Bad for us and especially bad for our kids.
Definitely a note to chew on. Brendan, thank you again for your time today on Forum Daily.
Thank you, Nima.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.